Hey there, all you savages. Welcome back to Wrestling's Glory Days Weekly Podcast, WGD Weekly with Steve and the Scum. My name is Steve, and with me, as always, is everyone's favorite babyface, and that is the Scum. It's a great show. We got Jake the Snake Roberts with us, part of Accountability Week. We got Jake the Snake Roberts this week, Diamond Dallas Page the next. Who knows what's going to happen after that? Scum, what's going on, my brother?
Well, I'm pretty excited, just like you are, Steve. Always a pleasure to be back here on WGD Weekly with you, my longtime tag team partner. Always a pleasure to be doing business with the boys over at Wrestling's Glory Days on Facebook. And today, going to be a pleasure to do business with one of the all-time greats. Legend from his days way back. Picking up a thing or two from one of your favorites, Wrestling 2, up through the classic days in Georgia Championship Wrestling and that legendary feud with Ronnie Garvin, into the WWF where he brought a friend along with him, Damien. Had so many classic feuds there. His stay up north. Can't wait to get into a conversation here with Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yeah, man, it's going to be awesome. Pretty much everything that guy touched when he was in the wrestling game turned to gold. I know he's had his share of ups and downs later on in his career, more downs than ups, I'm sure. But, you know, when you look back on his career, I mean, Jesus, he was like one of the guys you watched when you were growing up as a kid, from the red pajama pants, Mid-South Wrestling, and being a member of the original Legion of Doom all the way up through, and being a part even of the birth of Stone Cold Steve Austin. Jake Roberts has been through everything, man. It's a pretty crazy story with him.
Absolutely. The difference with Jake, I think it is lost on a lot of the current guys today, is he didn't necessarily have that build or the look, the bodybuilder look, but what Jake had was a believability. When you saw Jake the Snake, that psychology that he brought, the interviews, the classic interviews, it wasn't yelling and screaming. He was soft-spoken, to the point. But when he was done, and that smile, and later on when he had that snake, you know, this is a crazy MFer. This guy he's sick. He's twisted. He's going to go out there and bounce someone's skull off the mat with that DDT. He's going to drape a snake all over him, and he's going to enjoy doing it.
Totally. Well, you know, it was kind of a tough deal getting him on our show, man. We had to go and record him on two separate occasions simply because of his busy schedule. I mean, even still to this day, he's one of the busiest guys in professional wrestling. He's hard to pin down. We've had better luck getting guys that you would think on name alone would be maybe a little bit harder to get, but geez, Jake the Snake, he's always on the move.
Yeah, he's all over the place these days. He's got that Snake Radio up and running. That's a heck of a program. All of our listeners should be sure and check that out. You know, if it's a radio program and you got Jake the Snake Roberts on their podcast, that what a storyteller. One of the reasons we can't wait to get into it with him here today. Just a great storyteller. Pull no punches. I mean, hey, Jake is, last I checked, beating the hell out of the CBS sports guys in the football pick'em that is going on over on CBSSports.com. It's him and all the football experts, and Jake is in first. He picks every team each week. So, I mean, you pretty much can't look anywhere if you're a wrestling fan across the internet, much like WGD Weekly. You can't look anywhere without seeing the snake slithering around on his belly.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, we got him slithering into our studio right now. The red light is on, man. It's time to talk to Jake the Snake Roberts. So without further ado, let's take you right to it. All right, folks, it's that moment y'all been waiting for. We got Jake the Snake Roberts with us now. Jake, thanks so much for joining us. It's been one heck of a ride for you over the last couple of years, a real feel-good story. But in order for a story to be feel-good, you have to have some real peaks and valleys along the way, and I know you certainly do. On this show, we like to go and cover the whole gambit of your career from start to finish if we could. So if you could, Jake, take a moment and tell us what it was like following in the footsteps of your dad, who was a wrestler, Grizzly Smith. A little bit of background.
I was a son, you know, as far as him fathering the child, yes, but he didn't raise me. And, you know, all my life, in my younger days, man, I always thought that, you know, if he was a wrestler, I could have had my dad, you know, and everything would have been, you know, nights and everybody been happy, but that wasn't the case. He had his issues too, and sexual addiction is a sick thing, man. Whenever it's passed to the kids, man, and children are abused, and my sister was, and that's not a good beginning, man, because it twists your mind up. You don't trust people, and the people that you do trust seem to hurt you, and they're the ones that hurt you the worst. And you can get a pretty sick outlook on life. I still paying the price. I have a real hard time with women, man. I don't trust them, and it's something that I've got to work with continually, and it's kept me from having a healthy relationship. You add drugs and alcohol to that, and it certainly doesn't get any better. My alcohol abuse started at a very young age. My grandfather was an alcoholic. I watched him daily get sick and piss himself, and shit himself, and do horrible things, man. And it was something you say to yourself, I don't want to grow up like that, yet you do, and I started drinking by, he would pass out and leave his bottles laying around, and I started testing this stuff and trying it, and me and the boy across the street would dare each other, silly, foolish things, and as I got older, I started playing around with speed, because that way I could drink more, I wanted to be the life of the party, and of course it went from that to more drugs, and more booze, and I'm grateful that I did miss heroin. I don't know how that happened, but my God, that's one I missed. Other than that, I did lots of it, and I did it for a long time, my cocaine addiction was, it was 25 years of doing cocaine. That's a successful cocaine career as far as my book goes, because I'm still alive. But it's something I would advise anybody to do. And, people ask me, why did you drink and why did you do drugs? Well, because I love that stuff, man. It was a great friggin' time until one day when it was no longer a choice to do it, to have some fun. It was now a necessity to do it just to live, and to get out of bed and to want to do anything. So my God became drugs and alcohol. And, accompany that with, I've got 8 beautiful children. Thank God I wasn't around them much, because I'd have probably screwed them up even worse than I did. But now I'm trying to reclaim those relationships and build a foundation and have a good life with my grandchildren and my kids. My career, it was awesome, man. And not many people did what I did. Nobody did it as good as I did, as far as I'm concerned, but that's just my own point of view. But, how much better could I have been without the drugs and alcohol? I don't know. I don't know, man, because I think sometimes you have to go through things to become what you are. So maybe those things were a necessity as far as my character and as my persona and as my psychology went. I think a lot of the trials and tribulations of my life helped mold that character. But it got to the point that I was dying quickly, man, but not quick enough as far as I'm concerned, because it's a miserable life doing drugs and alcohol 24/7, man. It's not fun. When you wake up and you've got to have something before you can get out of bed, it's pretty sick. And I just want to say that, I've been to jails and I've been to rehabs, and I never met anybody in either place that said, when I was a young kid growing up, my dream was to become a drug addict and alcoholic. Well, that's not the way life happens. It sneaks up on you, and then it's got the claws hooked into you, and you can't get away from it. But there is hope, man. I mean, you don't have to wind up dead. You don't have to wind up in jail. You can come out of it, man, but it does take a lot of hard work. But the most important thing is you got to have good friends around you that care about you, and you got to have a foundation around you that protects you. Because I couldn't make good decisions, man. My decisions were all clouded. They were all wrong. They were all twisted. So Diamond Dallas Page saved my life, man. Bottom line, it doesn't matter why he did it. The fact that he did it, So I'll be forever grateful. My children are forever grateful. And, You know, now my life is much better. I'm trying new things in life now. I've been sober. I've done no cocaine for 11 months, man. So that's amazing because I didn't think I could last a week without it. You know, 11 months ago, I didn't think I could last a week. I was hoping I could last 3 days. 3 days turned into 5, 5 turned into 7, and it just continues to build. But that's where I'm at today, man. I'm trying new things with acting. I've got my own podcast called Snake Radio. It's going to be out there. You can find me on Twitter at Jake Snake DDT, and you can follow me on that and find out what else is going on. The podcast will be up and running this week. We did our first one. We put it in cam. We got to add some bells and whistles to it, and then we're going to put it out there for everybody to hear. I think you'll find it informative. I think you'll find it challenging and fun. I've got a couple people on there with me. A young boy by the name of Dylan James, or James Dillon, or rumored he's also called Sonny Demise. Never heard of him. Okay. And we got a lawyer buddy. Yeah, kayfabe, don't say it out loud. Got a lawyer buddy that's on there with me who's also an MMA fighter and a hell of a guy. He played baseball for the University of Georgia in the States. And of course, we got some eye candy on there, too. We got a beautiful young lady on there that doesn't know anything but quick wit. So there we go. That's what we're starting out with. But we'll be interviewing all sorts of people. I do a weekly prognostications for American football, you know, the good stuff. You know, and I've challenged CBS Sports, and last week I beat their butts, and I'm going to continue to do so. And at the end of the year, we'll have the tally, and if they lose, they have to come do DDP yoga at the house, any outfit that I give to them. So you can imagine what I'll have them wearing. But if they win, I have to go to CBS Sports and file papers like a secretary. Other than that, I'm doing some movies. So my life is really sweet right now, man.
Wow, that's really awesome. Great to hear. Doing a little work on the silver screen, and of course telling those guys at CBS how to pick some football games. So that's really good stuff. So, Jake, while we got you on the line, tell us a little bit more about the start of your career. Was it tough breaking into the business? Did your dad help you at all? What was that like?
Well, you know, in the beginning, man, I was horrible. I didn't know my butt from a hole in the ground, you know, but I was fortunate enough, you know, my father did not help me in the wrestling. I had to do it on my own damn stuff, and I did it the wrong way. I did it the trial and error method, which is not smart, because you get hurt a lot, and it's just not wise. But, you know, probably the smartest thing I done was I started refereeing. And refereeing, you can learn a lot, and you learn timing, and you learn ring presence. And, you know, I was fortunate enough to be around some of the greatest of all time, whether it be, you know, somebody like Hiro Matsuda or Eddie Graham, Dick Murdoch, Carl Cox, Buck Robley. Buck Robley helped me more than anybody. He was an awesome performer. He had a very keen mind, and I learned a hell of a lot from him, you know, and, you know, I traveled all over the United States and Canada. I went up and spent some time in Calgary, of course, Stu Hart's place, and had the pleasure of meeting Owen Hart the first time when he was 9 years old. Brett and I were roommates for a while. So, yeah, you keep learning. I met Dynamite Kid at about the same time, and this is 1978, man, before they all got messed up. Whatever happened to them, but before all those things happened, I also seen a lot of young guys coming up. You know, I had one of Shawn Michaels' first matches, and I'll tell you right now, he stunk to high heaven. But he got better, you know. You know, JYD was a good friend of mine, Junkyard Dog, you know. God bless him, he's gone too. But, you know, I wrestled him back in Calgary, and I'll tell you what, brother, he used to put some horrible knots on my freaking head, man. He was dangerous in that ring.
Well, that's for sure. Your path would certainly cross ways with that of the Junkyard Dog for many years to come. But to keep things moving along here, let's next talk about the step where I personally was first introduced to Jake the Snake Roberts, and that was via the Superstation, TBS. That being Georgia Championship Wrestling. It was there you were with Paul Ellering as a member of the original Legion of Doom, And one of my personal favorite feuds of all time took place and saw you battling over the television title with Ronnie Garvin. Could you go back to that period for us in Atlanta? Give us your recollection of that time, specifically that classic program against Garvin.
Garvin was unbelievable, man. I'll tell you the craziest thing about Ronnie Garvin. I'd be beating the crap out of him. And, brother, I'm telling you, we whistled in some hard stuff on each other, man. We laid that shit in. And I would be beating Ronnie up, and all of a sudden I'd look down and I'd see his nipples get hard. I knew right then that he used to kick my ass. So every time his nipples got hard, he'd come to his feet and he'd wear my ass out. I'm just glad it stopped at ass kicking. You know, his nipples get hard, make you wonder what the hell he's going to do next. But, Ronnie was awesome, man, and a real pleasure to be in the ring with. You know, and I was running towards championship wrestling. I was the boss. I hired, I fired, I wrote the television. So all those things that happened, that was out of my mind, you know, and I had some fun doing that, man, and something I still love doing. I would love to go back and do some more writing for television, but, you know, that never needs to be seen. All I can hope for right now, you know, is that I'm trying to get myself into shaping up to do the Royal Rumble one last time, you know, and because I'd like to go out on my terms, because I quit 2 years ago and my body was just horrible. It was 307 pounds. I couldn't hardly get out of a chair by myself. You know, I'd like to go out on my own terms with my head held high. I think I deserve that. I've done 37 years in the ring, and it was a wonderful life. It was crazy, insane. Yeah, I did a lot of things wrong, but I did a lot of things right too, brother.
Absolutely. I know I can speak for Steve, myself, and your legions of fans around the globe when I say we'd love to see a few DDTs dealt out this January at the Royal Rumble. Speaking of which, as we keep moving along here with Jake the Snake Roberts on WGD Weekly, that would bring us to our next topic, your deadly finisher, the DDT. Where and when does the idea for this move that has become so synonymous with you and your name originally come from?
Well, that came from Louisiana, actually.
Okay.
I had been wrestling a guy by the name of Lynn Denton, wrestling under the mask by the name of the Grappler. And I used to really wear his ass out with a front face lock. He was shorter than I was, and one night I had him in that front face lock, and he went to push me back into the corner. Because at the time I was using a knee lift as a finishing maneuver, which I had taken from wrestling too, you know, with his okay that he wanted me to carry it on, you know, but as he went to push me back into the corner, he stepped on my foot, and we both fell backwards and knocked his ass out. And Jesus, something got born that night.
Absolutely. It's often replicated, never duplicated. But
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Sure.
I love it when I see these guys do it, because they do it, and then the guy gets up, and everybody at home goes, you know, when Jake Roberts did that, they didn't get up.
Nope. That is for sure. I believe it was Gordon Soley who used to say, once you hit that DDT, you could have counted to 10.
Yep.
So, to keep moving along here, we've now been to Georgia, Louisiana, Calgary, Dallas, all these stops along the way for Jake the Snake Roberts. And then, in 1986, the phone rings. At least I assume the phone rings for the WWF. You head up north to New York. Take us through how that move up north comes about for Jake the Snake Roberts.
Well, it came about because I quit working for Mid-South, you know, and then I had to pick up the phone and find my ass a job. Well, I called Vince McMahon's office and found out that he wasn't going to be in town for 3 weeks. I was scared to death. I was like, holy crap, I just quit my job last night, so what am I going to do now? But lo and behold, as secretaries and people do, sometimes they don't tell you the complete truth, and the phone rang about 15 minutes later, and it was Vince McMahon wanted me to come up there. Vince McMahon had tried to hire me before when I was at Georgia Championship Wrestling, because he bought out Georgia Championship Wrestling from some individuals at the time, and you know, he tried to hire me, and I did my stupid shit and cussed him out and called him a fag, and that's not a cigarette, by the way. But, you know, and told him to shove it up his ass and walked out. Well, man, and now I'm back asking the man for a job. So the rest is history there.
Sure. So when you first come into the WWF, though, you don't come alone. You suddenly have a friend joining you in a burlap sack that's slung over your shoulder. Comes out to the ring with you each match, that being Damien. Where does the idea for Damien come from?
That was one of my stupid ass ideas, man. And basically I was from driving in a car and having too much time on my hands, smoking pot and drinking beer. And I thought how cool it'd be to have a snake, man. Like call the dude, shake the snake, carry a snake, But I forgot to remember that I'm terrified of snakes. So there you go. I don't like them son of a bitches. I'm scared to death of them. But I'll do a lot of shit for money.
Who wouldn't? Now, are there any problems that ever come about with traveling on the road and around the globe with a python?
Besides them biting me and biting other guys and shitting all over in hotel rooms, destroying hotel rooms, biting a stripper on the tit, no, there was no problems.
That's definitely a tip that the stripper didn't want. We'll move on. Let's talk about your program with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Certainly one of the most memorable feuds from that era. Of course, the Snake versus the Dragon. Talk to us a little bit about that moment on Saturday night's main event where you DDT'd Ricky Steamboat onto the floor.
Well, they came to me and said they wanted to do this thing on the floor. And, I just said, hey, it's fucking impossible. You can't. I'll kill him. It can't be done. Forget it. And that's where they wanted it. The Powers. Vince and, oh gosh, I can't remember the gentleman's name now. The guy that was the booker at the time. Anyway, the problem was this booker had given Ricky Steamboat his break back in Mid-Atlantic years before. And he really wanted it done there. And Steamboat, because he felt like he owed the guy, came to me and said, come on, Jackson. I don't want to call me Jackson. Jackson, I can protect myself. I'll get my hands down. I said, dude, you can't get your fucking hands down time. I'm telling you. It don't work that way. So, after much arguing, we did it. And I was right. He didn't get his hands down in time. It sounded like a watermelon being dropped. Oh, concrete. Very hollow. And unfortunately for me, I had to pick him up and put him back in the ring, which picking up a sack of potatoes and trying to move it around and get it in the ring damn near herniated my ass. But if people watch that, they'll see that when the guys come down, suits and ties, there's one guy specifically that I'm pointing at, and I'm yelling at him saying, okay, you son of a bitch, there he is. I hope you're fucking happy. And I thought he was dead. I thought he was dead.
Oh, man.
But he wasn't moving, brother, and I couldn't tell if he was breathing or not. I was really upset. I love Ricky Steamboat. He's a wonderful gentleman. And it made me sick to my stomach. It took 2 weeks for his eyes to turn black. Because there was so much swelling in his forehead. His forehead actually swelled out 4 inches. Which didn't help his looks.
Man.
That was the moment. I know I just was inducted to Cauliflower Alley, and he was there. And during my speech, I looked down at him and I said, I would drop your ass again. he got a big laugh and got up and chopped the piss out of me. So there we go.
Oh, man, that's fantastic stuff. Well, from one great program to another, it seemed like every time you got into a program in the WWF during your prime, it was just captivating as heck. Now, let's go and talk about that match that culminated at WrestleMania 3 with a Honky Tonk Man. Prior to that, you had taken one vicious guitar shot in the Snake Pit. So tell us a little bit about the build-up to that angle and the blow-off at WrestleMania 3 with Alice Cooper in your corner.
Well, the problem was it wasn't a prop guitar. It was a real guitar.
Ooh.
Damn near a half-inch thick and covered with fiberglass. I know because I had to have fiberglass picked out of my back for weeks.
Huh.
You can't see that shit, but you lay on a sheet and you get snagged on the sheet. They went and got a guitar for it. And the gentleman that went and got the guitar was Pat Patterson's lover, Louie. And Louie thought, well, Vince wants a great deal. Vince gets the best. Well, shit. I got touched. And it really screwed me up, man. It moved 2 discs in my neck, C6 and C7. I know when I finally had the surgery, which I waited too long to have the surgery, because I was scared that if I had the surgery, I wouldn't be able to come back. And hell, things had just started happening. But the surgeon told me that he had had guys fall 5, 6-story buildings on their head and not see shit like that.
Man.
The disc exploded, and they were like stuck to my spinal cord. Just hunks and pieces of them. So, it is what it is. But, the unique thing about that angle was I was the bad guy, he was the good guy. Yet when he hit me with that guitar, I became the good guy and he became the bad guy. And wrestling with Alice Cooper in my corner was a moment I'll never forget. I mean, hell, in high school, the school's out for summer, school's out forever, man. I mean, he was hot. And having him in my corner was a real trip. And, of course, Honky Tonk would not leave him alone. He said, Alice, little faggot bitch. And going on at him and told Alice he'd kick his skinny little ass, too. And Alice took his damn jacket off. Oh, my God. Oh, please put that back on, dude. And, those are not arms. Those are not arms.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I know Alice Cooper always had kind of a macabre performance, but you and he made a great team, I guess you could say, with the Snakes and everything. It certainly was a very apropos pairing. I know my partner, the Scum's going to hop in here. He's got a couple more questions for you. We got Jake the Snake Roberts with us, folks. WGD Weekly with Stephen the Scum. Stay tuned. We got more to come. Scum, what do you got for Jake the Snake?
Well, Jake, I think you can see a pattern here developing with all these great feuds you've been in. So next we'd like to touch on your thoughts and memories of working with another classic rivals of yours, and that would be the late ravishing Rick Rude. There was the angle there where he had the tights with your wife at the time, Cheryl, on them, and that feud was just red hot. Everything seemed real believable. You guys actually had a match at WrestleMania 4 in the World Championship Tournament. Could you look back at your time in the ring with Rick Rude and your thoughts in general on Rude as a person?
Well, Rick Rude was very volatile. He's right up there a savage. Okay? You never knew what this schizo son bitch was going to do next. And Rick was full of energy. I'd helped Rick get into business years before when he toured the Championship Wrestling. He was just getting started. He came and stayed with Animal and I, Road Warrior. Wound up bleeding all over our damn furniture. Got his ass kicked in the bar. I can imagine that. But working with Rick in the tournament, oh my God. Fuck me, man. That son of a bitch he'd go 100 miles an hour, man. And there's so much pressure put on you at WrestleMania to perform above and beyond. But that pressure is put on by the individual himself. Because my thought is, go do this thing, and you go do it because do what got you there. And, I'm out there trying to protect myself for 20 minutes, man. Because he's just a machine. Christ. He's a gym rat, but I wasn't a gym rat. But I protected myself long enough to get through it. And the funny thing about it was Ivana Trump was at ringside. And the douchebag would not even watch the fucking match. She had on this, probably $5,000 dress, and She's drinking champagne out of a little glass, and her and Donald are there. And I don't know why I did it, but I'm glad I did it. She not watched us the whole friggin' time, man. And I am dead, man. I am so gassed. I had to pick that heavy snake up. People don't realize this son of a bitch is heavy, brother. At the end of the match, you really don't feel like picking that fucking shit up. But as I came out of the ring, I accidentally swung it around and hit her right in her tits. And she did a little backflip, you know, and Donald ran up the aisle. And then years later, I find out from Donald that she actually asked a couple of his bouncers to come to my room and kill me over that shit.
Really? Wow.
Oh,
I thought you were going to say you come to find out she liked it.
No, I guess a blowjob's out of the question, but no, it didn't happen that way.
Okay, to keep moving along now, talking WrestleMania, we're talking Atlantic City and the Trump Plaza, and now you've already worked with some of the biggest and best, but the next year at WrestleMania 5, you go against maybe the biggest and best ever, Andre the Giant. It was on a Saturday night's main event that we all found out that the kryptonite for Andre was Damien, and that he was scared of the snake. This would lead to the feud and the blow-off at WrestleMania that year. Everyone seems to have a good Andre story, at least the guests that we've spoken with that worked with him up close like you did, saying that he either likes someone or he doesn't like someone. So touch on working with Andre for us, and give us any tales that you might have about working with the Giant.
It was a pleasure working with Andre after the first time. Andre always tested his opponents to see what kind of balls they had. And, man, he took me out in the ring and he wore my ass out. I mean, just guzzled me. Christ, man. If it had been a street fight, I'd give up like 5, 10 times, you know. And I got back on the press room, and I must have been crazy because I called him out on it, man. What the fuck, man? When we're trying to make money, you're going to do that bullshit? We'll never make a fucking nickel doing this crap. You know, I fucking want to be in the ring with you. And he looked at me, smiled, and says, okay, boss, we okay now. You know, and became best friends. You know, each night we played cards, loved to play cribbage, drink. I didn't drink, but he was drinking wine. He could do that. Bottles and bottles and bottles. But one instant, it was pretty horrifying for me. It was his birthday, and we were up in Montreal. Of course, him being French, he was having a good time up there. And he had quite a few bottles of wine and a couple of bottles of vodka, too. Got in the ring, and there's something you never want to see if you're an opponent, is a playful fucking giant. It's dangerous, you know, because they're giggling and they're hopping around, and my God, are you fucking serious? What am I going to do now? Well, during the match, we usually did a spot where he'd get me in the corner and grab me in the corner. I'd drop down, he'd flat on my back, and he'd grab both ropes because his legs were gone, and he'd squat down on me, you know. It looked great. And normally, didn't bother me at all. This night, his hand slipped off the rope, and he adjusted every friggin' vertebrae of my body. It was like, you know, really? You know, I was like, holy shit, can I breathe? Can I breathe? I just couldn't believe it, man. I mean, he knocked the breath out of me. I was like, Well, I turned on my side. When I turned on my side, all of a sudden, I felt my shoulder vibrating. What the fuck is that? And he's laughing. And you don't laugh. You don't laugh in the ring. You know that. And Dave Hebner came over. Andre, what are you doing laughing? I'm farting.
Oh, no.
And my shoulder's vibrating. I don't know what the world record for a fart is, but it was well into the 30-second range. And the stench, it was gagged with maggots. But my first thought was to get up and just paintbrush that son of a bitch, but I quickly got over that. A lot of wrestling.
That seems like a could be a common thread that's developing here with our Andre stories on the show. We spoke just last week with the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. He told us a story of when he and Andre were in Japan in an elevator, and the Giant had a similar, let's say, movement. I believe Ted said, "I was just wondering when it was ever going to end."
It's incredible. Just, jeez.
Oh, man.
Of course, DiBiase deserved that part. I did.
Absolutely. I think Ted DiBiase's exact quote was, "When the door opened, everybody ran out like it was the Exodus."
Yeah. The atom bomb has been dropped.
You got Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and the elevator in the Hilton with Andre. We'll move on from there. Let's talk about another big guy that you had a great program with, and that is The Undertaker. A very interesting character, so to speak, when you're talking about in and out of the ring, a guy that very rarely, even in today's atmosphere, doesn't break character very much. Really cool stuff. Tell us about working with Mark Calloway, The Undertaker.
When he first come to WWF, he came to me and he goes, "I hear you know all the great strip joints." "Yes, I do. Worldwide. I'll travel with you." I don't think you can hang with me, man. You need to go back and play a basketball, because he's a basketball player in college, that. So he tried to hang with me. It's a chemical world, and I was cheating. And after about 3 or 4 weeks, we went to TV, and Vince looked at him and said, "Mark, I don't think you need the makeup today. You look like hell." Jake is killing you. And a few days later, he was in the hospital with alcohol poisoning. So, I finally had to smarten him up and tell him how I was doing it. We became very, very good friends. And, I have all the respect in the world for Mark. He's earned everything that he's gotten. Unique character. I love the fact that he holds kayfabe. Just a great guy, and of course he was there for the stripper times with me, and we did it well. My favorite part of the angle was the idea I came up with, was slamming his hand in the casket, and then me hitting him with that chair, and him dragging the casket and trying to fight me, which is pretty eerie.
Yeah.
And, the bad news is, we had done that first order with Macho Man hitting me with the chair by the curtain, and Macho Man, he never held back anything, brother. He lit my fucking ass up. And, but I knew what I was fixing to do to Mark, So I said, no, let's do that again. This time, lay it in, Mach. And Mark looked at me, "Are you serious? He fucking nearly killed you." Yeah, he did. But I knew what I fixed to do to him, and I didn't want him to have any room to say, "God damn, man, you didn't hit me that hard." So I took one more from Mach. And then, in that scene, with him dragging that casket, brother, I lit that poor son of a bitch up. I hit him 7 or 8 times. Of course, I did slip him a few pain pills afterwards. That's all right.
Jake, it's very interesting that you mentioned slamming The Undertaker's hand in the casket. I think that was probably the first time, at least from when I was watching, that you could really see that The Undertaker was humanized a little bit, that he was vulnerable, and that Jake the Snake Roberts was devious enough to take advantage of that.
Absolutely. I did.
Well, I'd say you certainly did there, Jake. Now, let's go from one feud with The Undertaker and go right into the next feud that you had in WWF, and that was with Randy Savage. The rivalry that you had with The Undertaker segued perfectly into the rivalry you had with Macho Man Randy Savage. Of course, the 2 infamous Cobra incidents, one at the wedding and, of course, at Saturday night's main event. Any fan of classic professional wrestling can still envision that Cobra stuck to Randy Savage's arm as he's tied in the rope. So tell us a little bit about what it was like working with Randy Savage and, of course, what you thought about when you heard of his passing.
with him going down, man, it just couldn't believe it. You know, it was sickening. You know, he's such Randy was wired differently, and he had some issues, but don't we all? You know, and him dying just, I don't know, it scares the hell out of me because it tells me, Jesus, man, when's your turn? You know, because he certainly took better care of himself than I have. And, to lose him, we lost a great one. And, it was really horrible. As far as the snake biting me, man, I still get wood watching that. You know? I just can't help it. You know, it is. To me, it's probably the grandest moment wrestling's ever seen.
Definitely one of the most entertaining moments in wrestling, long before shock television in the late 90s, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. No way they can hang with us. Well, guess what we're doing, guys? We're on the way to do Snake Radio. And Snake Radio is what I'm doing now. And you guys need to check that out. Rod's on YouTube.
Absolutely. Yeah, we saw you have yourself a host, and you got a little young lady there working with you.
Yeah. We got a couple of douchebags, the host and that girl. But the host is a great guy. He's a great friend of mine. He's a lawyer too, and he just recently had a kickboxing thing, and he won. Surprisingly enough, he won, but he suffered a horrible injury. He broke his little toe. He's fucking kidding me. Wait till I get on air tonight and bust his balls over that shit.
I can't wait to hear that.
Please
It'll
be aired next week. We're pulling up the building now, guys. So once again, I'm going to scoot you off here. Let's do it again sometime.
All right, Jake. Well, we want to thank you very much for being here tonight on WGD Weekly with Stephen the Scum. But before you head into the snake pit for a round of Snake Radio, we had one parting shot here, and that was something that we've seen recently along the news wire, something a little more current, where we read that Jake the Snake Roberts is looking to purchase TNA. Is there any truth to this?
I want to run an Indiegogo and raise some money and buy that son of a bitch and do it right. Not to be in competition with Vince, but to do wrestling the way I liked it. And maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But now I hear the guy from Smashing Pumpkins snatching it, so maybe I should just buy the band Smashing Pumpkins and just go on with my life, start singing.
Any thoughts on if you did get your hands on TNA, on how you'd like to go about trying to lead that company back to prominence?
Absolutely. I got all the thoughts, bro. There ain't nobody better than that. I would make it simple. There would be good guys and there would be bad guys. There wouldn't be no bullshit, and there wouldn't be 20-minute interviews. We'd actually wrestle.
Man, we would sure love to see that.
The world needs you, man. Take care, guys, and God bless.
All right, thanks
You do
for
the
coming
same.
in, Jake.
Wow, Scum. Just wow. What a great interview with Jake the Snake Roberts. I'm really excited to have heard all his stories. Some hilarious stuff. Obviously, another Andre story, another Andre reference. That's great. Scum, we got a lot going on over the next couple of weeks, including WrestleCade, man. What did you think of our show? I thought it was really, really good with Jake the Snake.
Absolutely. Fantastic stuff. Does not disappoint. You come in, you're thinking one of the all-time great talkers, one of the all-time great promo guys. So many points to touch on in that interview. One of the greatest, right from where he got into the stuff with Ricky Steamboat bouncing his head like a watermelon on the concrete. I remember watching that. Damien. Seems as though Damien, has quite a way with the fairer sex, so to speak. And he winds up slithering his way into shirts, into the strip clubs. Quite the, I guess he can't be called the ladies' man, but the ladies' snake, I guess you could maybe say. And once again, seems to be becoming commonplace on here. Another man that worked at length, much like our guest last week, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, worked at length with Andre the Giant. And when it comes down to telling a tale about Andre, it all boils down to that 60-minute Broadway.
Yeah, 60-minute Broadway or 60 seconds of hell for Jake the Snake Roberts' shoulder and about 35 Japanese people on a hotel elevator. As I'm thinking about it, I'm really impressed with Jake's in-ring ability. He was a really great wrestler, did a lot of stuff in between moves. Great psychologist, but at the end of the day, that DDT, one hell of a move.
Oh, no doubt about it. And don't forget, before the DDT, that vicious knee lift that he gave, that he learned from your man wrestling too. Not to mention one of those that you brought up, and I've said this, and I'll say it till the day that I die. There was not a wrestling fan in their youth that grew up watching the WWF through, say, 86 to 91 or 92 when Jake was there, that if they were squaring off with their buddies or they were squaring off with a sibling that wasn't given the old slap to the chest as they fired off those left jabs like Jake the Snake, circling the finger in the air after a wind up and a short arm clothesline, and then trying to score with that DDT. You're lying if you say you never did it. The DDT, often, maybe the most often duplicated move by some of the greatest of all time. I mean, think about the great people who picked up you want to talk Jake the Snake Roberts' legacy. He might not have had the titles. He might not have had whatever. He didn't need the titles because he was that good and he was people that believable. I mean, think about the guys today you have Randy Orton. He does the DDT with the feet up on the ropes, and that's vicious. That's a great variation. But Edge had a great DDT that he did. Mick Foley would do the double arm DDT. I mean, even think about some of the guys. Michael P.S. Hayes used to use the DDT as a finisher at one point. Arn Anderson used to do a great DDT, but none of them ever. There was never a time that anyone was ever like, you know what? That's the best DDT. Even those spin around tornado DDTs from the top rope, some of the cruiserweights and the younger guys lighter guys, use. Nobody ever could possibly have any merit in saying that is the best DDT because there's only one guy that had the best DDT, and it's Jake. And I mean, that says a lot for his legacy,
Definitely one of the best and most memorable finishes ever from the glory days of pro wrestling, and so was the $1 Million Dream. What a great interview last week, too, with Ted DiBiase. I think the last couple of weeks here of our season's really, really turned out to be great. Ted DiBiase, Jake the Snake Roberts, and, of course, capping it off next week with Diamond Dallas Page.
Absolutely. One of the best. Always 2 weeks in a row. I mean, you know me and where I come from and who I'm a fan of. Ted DiBiase followed by Jake the Snake Roberts. I mean, it does not get much better than that when you're coming from my world and who I grew up enjoying, as a fan of Georgia Championship Wrestling, obviously a Northeastern guy, a fan of WWF, and who wasn't, two of the greatest characters of all time. I would agree with you, Steve. It's been a great first season. I mean, it's not over yet. We still got a couple of shows here to go, but I mean, we're getting down there, and I would agree we've had unbelievable from the start to where we've got now and some of the people that we've had on here. And I mean, who would have ever thought? But, like I always say, you never know what you're going to get, and you learn something new every week here on WGD Weekly. And as a former announcer turned evil boss once said, anything's possible on WGD Weekly.
You're absolutely right, Scum. Anything is possible here at WGD Weekly with Steve and the Scum. We got one hell of a first season in the books. Jake the Snake Roberts tonight, DDP next week, and then we're going to take a break for the holidays, spend a little bit of time with our family, get some equipment. We're going to work out a few audio bugs, make this a nice, smooth-sounding transition into next season. Go to WrestleCade, have a lot of fun there. Who knows? We might actually post a few things from WrestleCade, maybe sneak in a show, but that's next Sunday. So that's going to be a little bit difficult to do a full show and also be at WrestleCade at the same time. So we'll work on that. Guys, thanks so much for listening. Thanks for all the likes, subscriptions, the downloads on iTunes. It's been overwhelming. We really wanted to thank you. Have a safe and happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your Christmas season, your holiday season with everybody. Steven the Scum will be back next week with Diamond Dallas Page. But until then, I think that's about it for us. Scum, you got anything to add before we hit it?
Nope, just over here giving myself a self-high five, considering we got the master of the diamond cutter next week. And that's about all I got too, Steve. We will tune in, people. Thank you for tuning in, and thanks for all the support, and we'll see you back here next Sunday.
That's right, my man. DDP next week. Don't forget it, people. We'll see you then.
See you next week, people.